Sometimes it takes talking with other people to get some ideas about things that you kind of thought you had solidified in your head. And the thing is, I think I had this particular thing that I'm going to talk about today sort of solidified in my head without really stating the obvious when I did that. I'm going to talk today about the subject of just the facts on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Saturday, the 6th of November of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Again, today we're going to talk about just the facts, and let me go through my notes to give you some idea what I'm going to discuss. I may have talked about this sort of subject before, but there's a slightly different angle that we're going to approach it from today. There are a lot of folks who will tell you that past, quote, iterations, end of quote, of the media were totally unbiased and, as a result, completely reliable. For as far back as I can remember, and I suspect as far back as history reaches and probably beyond, this is obviously not the case. I was discussing this with my brother the other day, and he made one of the most important points about this concept I can imagine. There may have been a time when the news media was more or less sponsored without expectation of their presenting a particular tilt in one direction or another. These days, they, like just about every other kind of media, are revenue-generating endeavors. If they don't make money, they cease to be. CNN is set to learn that very lesson soon. It appears their viewership is low, and I would expect their overhead to put out their product as far too high, right? The overhead to put out their product is far too high. They're going to learn that hard lesson that so many businesses struggle with, particularly in the modern day. You either cut staff and maybe other things, or cease to be. If you cannot command the type of income you once did, that's how that is. If you can't, you don't. You don't continue to exist. If you don't believe this is the case, you need to look to the conservative media. To the degree they're able to acquire large audiences and hold them wherever they do that, they continue to, quote, level up, end of quote. So whether folks like Drew Berquist are correct about the cause of their supposed lack of continued popularity, and I believe they probably are, but that's another story for another video, they will have to remain small in terms of the teams they employ to do what they do. For my part, what I do literally involves just one person, me. The simple point I'm making is this. If you expect an unbiased media, you have to support an unbiased media, at least in their willingness to report things they don't want to, if not in their willingness to agree as to why they happened. Is that what folks want? For the most part, I'd be inclined to say no. The result is you shouldn't expect to hear just the facts from those to whom you pay mind. You just shouldn't. That's not something you're going to get. Here's the thing. Here's my take on this, and I've been saying this for a very long time. For a very long time, most of the media that has existed has been essentially liberal in their output. Walter Cronkite was by and large a liberal guy. I'll admit that he tried very hard to be far more unbiased than many of the people who are doing things today. But Walter Cronkite was biased, and he was biased in a liberal direction. Again, how much did that affect his output? Well, I think that was probably more on the editorialists who decided, the editorial people, who decided exactly what he was going to talk about. Maybe he could totally skip the story if they decided it didn't suit the narrative. I don't think Walter Cronkite as much was involved in that. I think that was more or less something that was done on an editorial basis, right? So, but the point I'm making is this. As time has gone on, it's become horribly obvious by the fact that there's what amounts to a right-wing media and what amounts to a left-wing media, and really nothing in between. There are people who call themselves center, and I think there are still center-right and center-left for all of them, okay? And I'll just tell you right now that you're not going to find anybody in my mind who's impartial, and if they don't show their partiality by how they report the story in terms of what they say about it, they will often do so by the fact that they are unwilling to talk about certain things and far too willing to talk about others. This is the reality. And again, let's be fair here. These days, you literally have people out there, and I'm not going to get into details on this, but you literally have people out there who are, what's the word I want? They are making it so that advertisers are believing that people in given camps of reporting are doing things that are improper, such that certain advertisers will refuse to support them because they now feel like they have cause. Now, to be fair, if they were willing to do their due diligence, they would find out that that was not the case. That's not what's happening at all. And so the point is, advertisers are going to stick behind certain people, and certain companies are either going to not care what those people who tell them this guy is bad for this reason, do their due diligence and find out whether or not the person is bad for this or that reason, and not act if there's not a good cause. This is the best of all worlds to me. Or they're going to be tilted in the same direction that that individual is. So when I listen to Dan Bongino, I recognize that he has a right-leaning perspective. I will say that he's right-centrist in my view. He's not ultra-nationalist or any of that. Right? He's not super right-leaning, in my opinion. And I think you'll find that the same thing is true on the left and the right. If somebody's very left-leaning, then the people who support that individual in terms of advertising and so forth, those people will be far left-leaning. If they're center-left, then the people will be center-left who are supporting them. And if they're right, whether it's center or far right, the people who support them will be either center or far right. You might find instances where people who are far right are being supported by people who are center right, or people who are center right are being supported by people who are far right. But in general, that's as far as most of them are going to go, unless they just don't allow politics and decisions about where they're going to put their advertisements. Right? This is pretty much how that's going to work. And what that means is that two things are going to happen. One, people are going to, one of them is going to happen naturally, right? People are going to not support news entities largely that they do not feel fit, resonate with how they feel about life. Okay, look, to be fair, I listen to Tim Pool, and Tim claims that he is a leftist with some right leanings, basically. For the most part, he claims himself to be leftist. Now, these days, I don't think Tim is nearly as leftist as he thought he was when he was younger. That having been said, he still has some, quote, leftist perspectives, and he still talks about things in ways that make me shake my head at times. But it helps me to know what reasonable people who are sort of leftist are thinking about things. It helps me to know that. It helps you to know that. Sometimes I'll listen to people who are far left in order to find out. I consider Dinesh D'Souza to be mostly right-leaning, but actually he's either centrist or in some senses he's even a little bit leftist in certain regards. Is that okay? Well, yeah, he has the right to do that, and it doesn't mean that I stop listening to him because he's that way. That's not how that works. So this is what I'm trying to get across to you, though. Most people, they'll listen to the mainstream media and they will ignore Dan Bongino, they will ignore Dinesh D'Souza, they will ignore Drew Berquist, they will ignore even the likes of like I say, Tim Pool, or even a little bit farther to the left. Right? They'll ignore those people. They won't pay them any mind at all. Oh, they might look at whatever the Young Turks is called these days. They might look at, others who are podcasters and so forth, Trevor Noah or whoever, but they will not look at people to the right. Unlike a lot of the people that I know who will look at different people in order to get that idea of who those people are. And the result is just the facts is not something I believe you can count on in the modern day. It just isn't. As a rule, you need to take into account the filter that the person is using, and that is what needs to drive how you look at what they're doing and what they're saying. If you can do that, I think you're not in horribly bad shape. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Saturday, the 6th of November of 2021. That would be the end of the Sabbath, which is coming right up because sundown is coming right up. For all of you celebrating the Sabbath, hope you had a good Sabbath today. For all of you who are not, I hope you're having a good day in general. Tomorrow will be Sunday, the 7th of November of 2021, starting to get towards that middle of the month. But it'll be Sunday the 7th. Thank you for everyone. Again, welcome, and thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a boxing glove or a plus on Rumble if you want to give me a positive feedback. You can give me a minus on Rumble if you want to give me a negative feedback. You can give me a thumbs up on YouTube or a thumbs down on YouTube. Thumbs up being positive, I like essentially on YouTube, and thumbs down being negative if you choose to do that. I hope people don't generally choose to negatively rate my videos, but if they do, hopefully they'll at least give me reason. And that brings us to the next thing that you can do. You can always comment on whatever I put out there if there is a place for me to do that, and if I am actually putting it on the place where you're viewing me, hopefully I'll get to see that comment and think about it and maybe either change my mind, change your mind, or whatever, but we can talk through things if you really want to do that. Again, today the subject has been just the facts, and tomorrow we're going to talk about recent political trends. I kind of thought this one up on the fly, but I really think it's worth discussing because I kind of wonder if people aren't a little bit confused about certain things that are going on trend-wise in the United States politically. We'll see how that all works out, and we'll talk through it, and maybe you'll come to the conclusion that I'm a little bit cracked on that. Who knows? I'm not going to tell you that I have a definite, solid opinion on it, but I do have an opinion, and I think it might be worth sharing. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Sunday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Saturday, November the 6th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.